of Taranaki in opposing this legislation?
The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Mr Chairman, this bill, like many things, is about money. It's as simple as that. On one hand, you have the South Taranaki District Council looking down the barrel of significant costs of upgrading a water system to its ratepayers, and it looking perhaps a little late at a comprehensive system of water delivery to its ratepayers through its district. And I applaud them for the planning, but they've now discovered a deal that was made some time ago with the people who have controlled this Cold Creek Rural Water Supply Scheme, a deal that was supposed to transfer ownership to them, that actually is not the best solution for all ratepayers across the district. And so the tension, I guess, has meant the only way of resolution, I guess, is through a passage of this piece of legislation. I'm not sure that it's the right solution to what is a big issue. It's one at the forefront of many rural districts and indeed of the whole agricultural sector. That is the control and the cost of water. And it comes down to, I guess, a fear of farmers on one hand if they relinquish ownership of the scheme, a scheme that was built up with taxpayers' money, subsidy, and the farmers' contribution, to be fair to them, was built up delivering them water at a relatively low cost in the South Taranaki district, and they want to keep that cost low, and that's a fair expectation. They sat down with council and negotiated the transfer, but because the Labor government stepped in fact, and I think we're very proud of it, to say we will not allow the transfer into private hands water schemes that are basically there for ratepayers, for public reticulation. It's a core part of not only the New Zealand lifestyle, but actually of the core expectations of anyone's living anywhere in the world. And the fact that we've got water, taken it for granted often in rural areas, doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't move, and the previous Labor government recognised this, move to secure supply and ensure we had a standard of water that was safe for drinking in the long term, not just the short term. So a number of changes happened when Labor came in, and that prevented what was in principle an agreement here to transfer this water supply from the council basically into the hands of the farmers. And I think that was fair enough. I think we have to give the councils an opportunity to make sure that a tool like this scheme doesn't go from their toolbox when they have a legal obligation to ensure supply across the district to all ratepayers. Now, I think they have about 13 different components of their water supply system delivering to all the ratepayers, and they want to consolidate it so that the higher standards of water supply, that's the treatment required and the security required now under law, can be delivered in a more efficient way. So it's a bit of a dilemma here. We have indicated that we would support this, but the more we look into it, I have to say, the more I have sympathy for the council. The council has astutely, as I say, done some planning that identifies this scheme here as a core component, particularly for Opunaki, of reliable water supply. The farmers also need reliable water, and there are peaks and there are troughs in terms of demand, and they have invested in a scheme that stores some of the water, that gives them the supply when they need it, and then at off-peak times can supply Opunaki, Mr Chairman, can supply Opunaki with reliable water when needed. So it is a complex dilemma, and we here in Parliament, a long way from reality, are trying to sort out a problem. I'm not convinced in my reading of this that it's actually we've got it right here. I'm not sure what will happen if the ownership is in fact transferred over to the company. I'm not sure what will happen when the council has to meet its obligation to provide high quality water to all its ratepayers, which is what we expect of our own councils. Mr Speaker, there are a number of issues tied up in here. As I say, the complex one of the cost of water, the value of water, and whether those who had, Mr Chairman,
Damien O'Connor.
where those who had the benefit of previous schemes of subsidies from central government, these are the farmers, they had the wisdom to take up those subsidies, whether that then gives them the right to have full ownership and control of the scheme. I would suggest not. There's still an element of obligation back to the taxpayers or ratepayers in whatever solution is finally arrived at. There are requirements, regardless of whether it be the farmers or it be the council, there are requirements to upgrade, spend some capital and upgrade the system. I'm told about $8 million, quite a lot of money for a relatively small number of farmers, perhaps if they were to bring it up to speed, but maybe a lesser cost of spread out across the whole ratepayers of the South Taranaki District Council. So I'm not wanting to labour this other than to I guess, work with the local member and say that, I'm sure he's trying to do his best here, but the issue of water and the transfer into private hands is something that Labor finds very, very sensitive. We do not believe that we have the right to transfer supply to ratepayers or residents or New Zealanders. The supply should not be in the hands of private companies. End of story. End of story. Because it's one of those things that I think the pioneers of this country fought for, battled for, invested in, and designed so that we could enjoy the benefits of it. What is a very generous amount of rainfall in the most parts of the country, great supply of water, one that we've probably abused over many years and taken for granted. We're now just starting to appreciate, which is why both the council and the farmers who want to take ownership of the scheme realise it's important to sort this out. Now, we are not in any way wanting to undermine the farmers' viability or just lump a whole lot more cost onto their farming operations. But we do want to make sure that we don't, through precedent or through individual circumstances for this district, do something that we don't intend. The unintended consequences of the passage of this bill, I guess, are one of the things I'm concerned about, and I'm sure my colleague Andrew Little, as the local representative, will have more to say on that. So, Mr Chairman, I won't go on for too much longer, other than to say this is important. There are some precedents. The member in the chair knows that, and we're not trying to disrupt or be awkward, but I think we do need to make sure that we're doing the right thing here, and maybe he can get up and give us some guarantees on that. Thank you.
Mr Chair. The Honourable Chester Borrows.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to address a couple of remarks.